I was at Walmart running my usual errands when I unexpectedly encountered a problem. As I was about to park, a Karen hits my car and offers $20 to fix it. Here's how it all went down. It all started on a lazy Tuesday afternoon. I had just finished a long day at work. All I wanted was to grab some groceries and head home to relax. My old sedan, which I affectionately named Betsy, had been with me through thick and thin. She wasn't the newest or the flashiest, but she was reliable. We had been on countless road trips together, and she had never let me down. Today, however, was going to be a different kind of adventure for Betsy and me. Walmart was unusually crowded that day. Maybe it was because of the sale on patio furniture or the new shipment of summer clothes. Whatever the reason, I had to park further away than usual. I found a spot next to a cart return, thinking it would be safer there. Oh, how wrong I was. After grabbing the essentials, bread, milk, and a tub of my favorite ice cream, I made my way back to Betsy. That's when I heard the unmistakable sound of metal crunching. I turned around and my heart sank. A garish pink SUV with leopard print seat covers had backed into Betsy. The rear bumper now sported a dent the size of a basketball. Emerging from the SUV was a woman who looked like she had just stepped out of a reality TV show. Blonde bob haircut, oversized sunglasses, leopard print scarf, the works. She looked more irritated than remorseful. "Look what you've done!" I shouted, rushing to inspect the damage. She sighed dramatically. "Oh, come on, it's barely noticeable." "That's a huge dent, Karen." I didn't know her name, but she had the aura of a Karen. She raised an eyebrow. "How do you know my name?" "Just a hunch," I replied, trying to keep my cool. She inspected the dent with a dismissive glance and then reached into her oversized purse, pulling out a $20 bill. "Here," she said, waving the money as if it were a magic wand. "This should make everything better." I looked at her, flabbergasted. $20? This is going to cost hundreds to fix." Karen smirked. "Well, maybe you should have parked somewhere else." I was taken aback. "You hit my car, and now you're blaming me?" She adjusted her sunglasses. "I'm just saying, if you had parked further away, this wouldn't have happened." I was struggling to keep my composure. "I need your insurance information." She rolled her eyes. "For that tiny thing? You're overreacting." "It's the law, Karen. You hit my car. You provide your insurance." She sighed as if I was the one inconveniencing her. "Fine, but only because you're being so pushy." She handed me a card. It was a loyalty card for a tanning salon. "This isn't your insurance card." She feigned surprise. "Oh, silly me, here you go." This time, it was a coupon for a nail salon. I was at my wit's end. "Karen, this isn't a game. Give me your insurance card." She smirked. "I don't have it with me, but here's my number." She scribbled on a piece of paper. "Call me and maybe we can work something out." I snatched the paper. "This better not be another one of your games." She winked. "Guess you'll find out." Our argument was drawing attention. A small crowd had gathered, and among them was a police officer. He approached us. "Is there a problem here?" I explained the situation, showing him the dent and the various cards Karen had given me. The officer turned to Karen. "Ma'am, you need to provide your insurance information." Karen huffed. "It's just a tiny dent. I offered him $20 and he's making a big deal out of it." The officer raised an eyebrow. "You think $20 will cover this damage?" Karen nodded. "Absolutely. It's just a scratch." The officer looked at me, then back at Karen. "Ma'am, this is a significant dent. $20 won't cover it." Karen crossed her arms. "Well, I think it's more than enough." The officer sighed. "If you don't provide your insurance information, I'll have to write you a ticket." Karen's face turned red. "This is outrageous! Fine!" She rummaged through her purse and finally handed over her insurance card. The officer nodded. "Thank you. Sir, make sure you take photos and get her details." I nodded. "Thank you, officer." As Karen drove off, she shouted, "You'll be hearing from my lawyer." I chuckled. "Sure, Karen, sure." Over the next few weeks, every time I ran into Karen, it was a new drama. She complained about the repair shop I chose, questioned the cost of the repairs, and even tried to convince mutual acquaintances that I was trying to scam her. One day, as I was leaving the cafe, she rushed up to me. "I've been thinking, and I really feel like you're taking advantage of the situation." I stared at her, dumbfounded. "How am I taking advantage? You hit my car!" She huffed. "Well, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. It's just a dent." I couldn't help but shake my head. "Oh, Karen, you really are something else." She smirked. "I know, and don't you forget it." As I drove away, I realized that some people just never change, and Karen was definitely one of them. It's always important to remember that parking etiquette plays a significant role in our everyday lives. This story serves as a valuable lesson in being considerate and responsible when parking our vehicles. Let's be mindful of others and avoid unnecessary accidents like this. Here I was, living a seemingly ordinary life as a single dad, navigating the challenges of parenthood. Little did I know that one message from my ex-girlfriend would unravel the secrets of our past and throw us into a whirlwind of emotions. Here's how it all went down. So, 6 years ago I matched with this girl on Peas in a Pod dating app. Yeah, that's a real app, don't look it up. Anyway, we clicked instantly, like we both loved pineapple on pizza and thought socks with sandals were the ultimate fashion statement. 2 years into our relationship, she approached me with a hint of nervousness. I think we're expecting. It took a moment, but I realized she meant she was pregnant. We were both taken aback. We had just perfected our spaghetti taco recipe. Nevertheless, after some research and advice from friends skilled in plant care, we felt ready for the challenge of parenthood. By 2020, just as the world was taking an unexpected turn, we welcomed a beautiful baby girl into our lives. We affectionately named her Pineapple. However, a few months later I received a message from my mother. "Pineapple's with me. Your girlfriend said she needed some time and left." Concerned, I tried reaching out to her, but my calls went unanswered. Arriving home, I found a note on our fridge. "The lockdown is overwhelming. I need some space to think." As days stretched into weeks, the only familiar face I saw was her sister's. She'd occasionally visit, mostly to spend time with Pineapple. While she never spoke of my girlfriend, she did leave behind a taco place coupon, a small gesture that spoke volumes. Time has a way of blurring the past, and as the seasons changed and Pineapple grew, life settled into a new rhythm. But just when I thought the past was behind us, 3 years later, and guess who's sliding into my DMs? Yep, my ex. At first, it was just some heart emojis on Pineapple's Instagram pics. Yeah, she has her own account. She's a mini influencer. Then out of the blue, she texts, "Hey, saw Pineapple's latest post. She's rocking those unicorn shoes. Coffee?" I was like, maybe? But then I remembered our pact about Pineapple's well-being, so I thought, why not? But deep down, I was like, how do I not throw my frappuccino at her for ghosting us? We met at Moobucks. It's like Starbucks, but with cow-themed drinks. I got there early, sipping on my mocha latte, thinking of all the sassy things I could say. I didn't bring Pineapple. She was busy having a play date with a coworker's pet. When my ex walked in, her eyes darted around the cafe. "Where's Pineapple?" she asked, a hint of disappointment in her voice. "Oh, she's with a friend. They're having a play date," I replied nonchalantly. She raised an eyebrow. "With a coworker's pet, by any chance?" I chuckled. "You know her too well." We settled into some light chit-chat. "Hey, how've you been?" she asked, trying to ease the tension. "You know, living the dad life," I responded with a shrug. "And you?" She hesitated for a moment, then dove in. "I've been finding myself. After Pineapple was born, everything just felt overwhelming." I raised an eyebrow. 3 years of finding yourself? What were you doing, trekking the Himalayas? She looked down, tears forming. "I was scared, okay? Scared you'd hate me." I sighed, pulling out my phone. "Look at this," I said, showing her the video of Pineapple and the cow. "This is what you missed." She laughed through her tears. "That's adorable." Before parting ways, I handed her a piece of paper. "Here's my number. Again, let's not lose touch this time." She nodded. "I promise." As I walked away, I couldn't help but wonder, can we really move past all this? And what if she drags Pineapple into some llama yoga thing? The future was uncertain, but for now, we were taking baby steps. So there I was, pondering over the past and the whirlwind of events that had unfolded. I never told my ex, but the thought of us getting back together, that ship had sailed, hit an iceberg, and sunk. I was open to the idea of co-parenting, but only if she pinky promised not to vanish into thin air again. There was another secret I held close to my chest. At one point, when Pineapple was just a baby, the weight of everything bore down on me. Work, loneliness, and sheer exhaustion. I seriously considered adoption. But one night, as I peeked into her crib, our eyes met. Pineapple gave me this heart-melting smile, her blue eyes twinkling as if to say, "We're a team, Dad." That moment changed everything. The adoption idea, tossed out the window. A few weeks later, my phone buzzed with a new message from my ex. "Hey, would you come with me to a therapy session? I think it might help." I hesitated for a moment before replying, "All right, let's do it." The day of the session, we sat in a cozy room filled with soft lighting and plush chairs. The therapist, Dr. Martinez, greeted us with a warm smile. "Thank you for coming, Jake. I believe this will be beneficial for both of you." As the session progressed, my ex began to open up about her childhood. My mom, she had this temper. It was like living on the edge of a volcano, never knowing when it would erupt. I glanced at her, seeing the pain in her eyes. "I never knew," I murmured. Dr. Martinez nodded. "It's essential to understand the past to navigate the present." After the session, as my ex left the room, I turned to Dr. Martinez. "What do you think about reintroducing Pineapple to her mom?" She paused, considering her words. "I'd suggest waiting a bit longer. Let's ensure the environment is stable for Pineapple." I nodded, appreciating her insight. "Thanks, Dr. Martinez." She smiled. "You're welcome, and if you ever want to talk, the door's always open." On the house, I chuckled. Might take you up on that. A little therapy never hurt anyone, right? On the home front, Pineapple had her own adventures. She started preschool and was living her best life, making friends, painting, and of course being the charming little rascal she is. I shared a few snapshots of her adventures with my ex, a small gesture to bridge the gap between us. Throughout this journey, the support I received was overwhelming. Friends, family, even strangers on the internet. It felt like I had an entire village backing me up, making the solo parenting gig a tad bit easier. Hey, you know what they say, people can't just waltz back into your life whenever they feel like it. There should be consequences for every action. But hey, life is full of surprises, right? We'll see how this plays out. For the past 2 years, I've been living in a modest apartment. When I moved in, there was no communal laundry room, but there were connections for a washer and dryer. Given my job at a wildlife sanctuary, where things can get rather messy, I decided to invest in my own set. Just the other day, one of our wild boars, named Bacon, I didn't choose the name, it came with him, decided to give me a run for my money. He escaped his pen, and I ended up chasing him around. By the time I managed to get him back, I was covered in grass stains and mud. Those moments made me truly appreciate having my own washer and dryer. Recently, my boyfriend and I decided to take the next step in our relationship. We got engaged, and I moved into his place. His washer and dryer were on their last legs, so I didn't think twice about bringing mine along. I was sipping my morning coffee when I noticed a barrage of missed calls from my old landlord. Curious, I dialed him back. "Hey, it's me," I began, but he cut me off. "Why are the washer and dryer gone?" His voice had an edge to it. I raised an eyebrow. "I bought them when I moved in. Naturally, I took them with me." There was a pause, and I could almost hear the gears turning in his head. I thought they were part of the apartment," he stammered. "Nope," I replied, trying to keep my cool. "Bought them myself." His voice grew frantic. "But I've already advertised the place with a washer and dryer. I even raised the rent because of them. The new tenants have signed the lease expecting them to be there." I sighed. "That sounds like a you problem. They're mine, and they're staying with me." He was silent for a moment, then exploded. "You can't just take them. The new tenants are moving in tomorrow." "Look," I said, my voice firm, "I have the receipts. I even texted you about buying them when I moved in. You should have checked before making promises." His voice was a mix of desperation and anger. "You need to bring them back, or else." "Or else what?" I challenged. "Just bring them back," he growled. I took a deep breath. "I suggest you figure something out, because they are not coming back." His voice grew more demanding, insisting that I return the washer and dryer immediately. He even went as far as to threaten to involve the police if I didn't comply. I felt a surge of anger. "Look," I said firmly, "those appliances are mine. I have the receipts to prove it. And if you recall, I even texted you when I moved in, explaining that I was purchasing them myself." But he was relentless, repeating his threat to call the police. "Go ahead," I retorted, my patience wearing thin. "Let's see how that turns out for you." With that, I ended the call. I was confident in my stance. After all, I had paid for those appliances and they weren't exactly cheap. My boyfriend was in full agreement with me. However, a coworker of mine felt that I should have informed the landlord of my intentions to take them. To me, it seemed obvious. Why would I leave behind something I had paid for? True to his word, my landlord did contact the police. The very next morning, as I was enjoying a lazy breakfast, there was a firm knock on the door. I opened it to find 2 police officers staring back at me. "Morning, officers, how can I help you?" I greeted, trying to keep the surprise out of my voice. "We received a complaint from your former landlord about a washer and dryer," the taller officer began, eyeing me with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. I chuckled. "Ah, that. Come on in." I led them to the living room and handed them the receipt for the appliances. "Bought them myself," I explained. The shorter officer glanced at the receipt and then at the text messages I showed him from my landlord. "Seems pretty clear to us," he remarked. The taller officer nodded. "Just a misunderstanding, it seems. We'll clear this up with your landlord." "Thanks," I replied, relieved. "I just wanted to move on, you know." As they left, my boyfriend walked in, looking concerned. "Everything okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, just a minor hiccup. But speaking of which, I think it's time to get your dad involved." Thankfully, my boyfriend's father is a lawyer. He's decided to step in and handle the situation with my landlord. For now, he's advised me to avoid any further communication with him. A few days later, I received a letter in the mail. It was an official-looking envelope, and my heart raced as I tore it open. Inside was a formal apology from the landlord, stating he had misunderstood the situation and regretted involving the police. But what caught my eye was the postscript at the bottom. "P.S. If you ever decide to sell those appliances, let me know. I might be interested." I stared at the note, a smirk forming on my lips. Well, I mused aloud. Looks like someone's realized their value. My boyfriend, overhearing, chuckled, "What do you say, want to make a deal?" I winked, "Only if the price is right, and maybe, just maybe, I'll throw in a lesson on checking property details before advertising." We both laughed, knowing that while the ordeal was over, the story would be one we'd tell for years to come. And as for the landlord, well, he'd just have to wait and see if we ever decided to part with our now infamous washer and dryer. By sharing stories like these, we remind ourselves of the importance of knowing our rights as tenants. It's crucial to be informed and empowered so that landlords cannot take advantage of us. Let's continue to educate ourselves and support one another in navigating the world of renting. If you enjoyed today's stories, check out the other videos on your screen now. Submit your own stories at you'rethejerk.com. Subscribe now, or you're definitely the jerk.